I want to see how Prince of Persia is doing. Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. I don't think they really released any gameplay. Here's the problem that I have with Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. So what I want to do, I'm gonna watch the Game Ranks video, the Before You Buy, and then we'll watch the IGN one. Just cause I think it's made by Ubisoft.
Hey, and we're back with another episode of Before You Buy. That show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and hello. This is the first Before You Buy of 2024.
Oh, wow. Technically,
well.
I guess my first
coming
review is
around.
going to be coming up soon,
Today,
too.
we're talking about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. The Prince of Persia franchise is back.
So here's the thing. Prince of Persia was made by... This one is made by Ubisoft. I tend to not be a fan of Ubisoft games. So... I don't know how... I really do want to just see gameplay and judge it off of that.
Sort of.
Before
you know, you're not the prince. This is an all-new adventure set in Persian mythology, and it's actually really great. A nice, welcome surprise for January. Like a good way to start the year if you like classic Prince of Persia or Metroidvanias. And just so you know, before we get into it, we've been playing a review copy from Ubisoft, and this footage here is spoiler-free. Anything story you see here is just in the first few hours. And also, this footage was captured on PS5, but our capture equipment broke last minute right before making this video, so the quality is going to be a bit lower. I apologize. I gotta love capture cards. I feel like they all break. They're all faulty, especially from that one company. Anyway, this is an interesting game.
I've complained about them many times.
It looked like a spin-off or a reboot into something else. You know, like I said, you're not the
like
classic Prince of Persia. Here, you're an immortal,
I saw a counter
kind
there
of
for a
badass
second.
warrior,
you got knocked
avenger,
back.
part of a
Looks like
group,
you lost a lot of health getting knocked back. Hold on, let me see that.
Something else. I was skeptical. Like I said, you're not the classic
he's at
Prince
1
of
bar of
Persia.
health. Okay, so he
Here,
loses half a
you're
bar
an
of health
immortal,
getting slapped
a kind
by
of
General.
badass warrior avenger, part of a group with the whole plot centered around Persian myth
There's the
and
counter.
fantasy. At first, I was like, why this instead of a mainline Prince of Persia game? Well, after playing Lost Crown, I actually think that this...
So he says this looks like something badass is about to happen. Hold on. What is happening?
It's a Persia
here?
game. Well, after playing Lost Crown, I actually think that this can be a good direction for the series, gameplay-wise. It feels different than your average Ubisoft game.
That's interesting. So, I've never really played Prince of Persia before. So, I'm not really, like, attached to the series or anything like that, but I totally understand. I know even I felt it a little bit whenever, like, the new guy showed up, and you're like, oh, this isn't the main character of the series. And so, there was that bit of, like, oh, what's going on here? Why is this happening? And kind of like that for me whenever I noticed that was happening. But other than that, I mean, like, if they do good, it doesn't matter. I know it's easier said than done, but like if you make something good, then you'll be fine. It'll be okay. That's the. But he was saying something about Ubisoft, so let's see where that goes.
For the series, gameplay wise, it feels different than your average Ubisoft game.
Thank you, because I really don't like your average Ubisoft game anymore. As of recently, I've really had a hard time playing your average Ubisoft game.
It's not an endless open world. It's just an enjoyable, challenging adventure that comes in at a lesser price and will take you like 20 to 30 hours, depending on how you play. Now,
dang! I was not expecting it to be that long. Now, I do think there is a place for just linear games in general. I got sick, and I want to blame Skyrim for it. I don't think it's Skyrim. I think it was around the time Skyrim was coming out. I think it has a combination to do with Skyrim, Grand Theft Auto, but really around the 360 generation, 2010s and stuff like that, open world games were just like the popular game to play. Open world games were the game to play. So everyone tried to make one. And because everyone tried to make one, it turned into this just like horrible experience where everything was open world but empty. And that's the worst part about open world games, is that it's real easy to make them empty. It's real easy to have an open world game and have nothing to do in it, and then it's just you're advertising the open world game. So now when I get scared, and I've been scared whenever I see companies that are like, our game is 15 times the size of blah 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 da 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 da, because it's like, I don't care how big the world is. Like Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, their world wasn't crazy big. Tears of the Kingdom was pretty big. Tears of the Kingdom was huge, especially for the Switch. But their world wasn't like, they weren't advertising how big their world was. There was a ton of stuff to do. And I think they became like the magnum opus of how open worlds should like be out and how they should play.
Sargon, a young, powerful badass tasked with rescuing a kidnapped prince in an ancient Persia.
Oh,
it's a fantasy
prince.
World. There are monsters, creatures, gods. He's super
princess?
powered. He can kind of go Super Saiyan. You go with it. You navigate 2D planes, progressing through a story and unlocking abilities in both combat and traversal that allow you to get to new areas of the map and journey further. The character is fast with sprints
he tried to go for the counter,
slides and
dude
dashes
whiffed.
and more you get throughout the game.
No.
And you can die in just a couple of hits or falling into a spike trap. And it can all be nice.
I wonder if I wonder if I should put up the difficulty, because this right here concerns me. They are playing a review copy, so it's probably a version of the game that's out before the actual game itself. There's probably an update that's going to be for the game. But look at this. Look at this right here.
New
So
areas of the map and journey further. The character
he swings
is fast.
and misses. The NPC did not know if it was in range to get. I mean, it was a pretty big swing, to be fair. It's a pretty big ass swing. But it kind of worries me that the NPC whiffed like that.
Slides and dashes and more you get throughout the game. And you can die in just a couple of hits or falling into a spike trap.
I do want to appreciate one thing, is how telegraphed the hits are. So
or you get
if we look right here,
and you can die in just.
I love the telegraph. If this game was just black and white and there's nothing else going on, I love seeing that the silhouette tells me what's going on. I think that's real important in just video games in general, is because you want to be able to tell what's happening. So especially if the game has counters and stuff like that, so that the players can do it. And then, of course, if you're overwhelmed by a number of forces, that's the great way of doing it. I do appreciate that there is no Spider-Man Spidey sense icon like how they did in Batman or in the Spider-Man games. I do appreciate that it's just this big overarching attack. I am worried at, I don't know, just the game looks really easy, but it's kind of just watching from the outside in, and it's never really easy to tell how fun or how good a game is entirely just by watching it. So I'm curious to see where that comes from.
Just a couple of hits or falling into a spike trap, and it can
he
all
actually
be
got
nice
hit there.
And challenging.
That's a big
Thankfully,
animation for getting
the game
hit.
gives you lots of different. The freedom of choice is nice here, and the game can be nice and challenging, particularly with the combat. You could slide under characters.
So he's saying exactly the opposite of what I was saying about how the game doesn't look challenging, I'm curious now.
Strikes, charged hits. You can hit them up in the air, juggle them, slam them back down, use some ranged attacks. You can also build up a kind of super meter and spend it on 2 mapped unlockable special attacks like a healing bubble, a big powerful hit, a massive ranged blast, stuff like that.
See, okay, so this stuff I like. Again, he said this is early gameplay. He also was saying how most of the stuff they said that the combat is challenging, I guess, is for the player. There's just a lot of variety of things to do, which is good. You're not going to be just doing the same thing over and over again as you're playing through the game. I think what Metroid does, because Metroid essentially is kind of the same thing if you're just using your gun the whole time, but it changes things up with puzzles and making you find things. Sorry. I do like seeing this, though. I do like seeing how, there's bugs in the air that you see first on screen. And as you're going against the bugs, some dude is just launching spears at you, crazy fast launching spears at you. And then you have to prioritize your targets in a different way. And then I see, oh, you guys can't see it right now, but then I see in the top right corner right here that there's a nest that's probably spawning the bugs. So there are 3 things that you have to deal with, and you have to prioritize how you're going to deal with them as a player.
There's the blast, stuff like that.
I think
it
it's
all
really
just
cool.
feels
That's what gets me excited about the game. And then the guy with the bow and arrow has a freaking shield. That is crazy annoying. Oh my gosh, that is crazy annoying. So dealing with him is just gonna be, a fucking cocksucker.
Responsive. Like, not once did I fiddle with the controls or have any issues at all, other than just my own skill or lack thereof.
That's good.
There's like one frequent use ability mapped to R3, or clicking the right stick that felt a little weird, but otherwise, buttery smooth controls, and the gameplay itself super smooth and tight. And for those special abilities you spend a meter on, there are some cool ones to unlock, but I did find myself kind of just taking the ones I liked early on and stuck with them for a lot of the game.
That tends to happen in a lot of games.
You can, I buried the lead here. You can also parry certain attacks. The parry window is very small, sometimes brutally so. But when you get it, it feels so good and satisfying, especially because when certain enemies do a special attack, if you parry that one just right, you'll get an instant kill with a really cool in-game finisher animation. The clang of a parry, the flash, all of it is really well done. And
I tend to not parry in video games, but I would be happy to learn it in a game like this.
And with those finishing animations,
I did learn it in the Samus game, in Metroid
this game
Dread.
Oozes with style in the presentation. Now, on the surface, it might look a little generic. Some of the characters, and as the story as a whole didn't really do too much for me personally. That might be a negative for some people, but
I don't think you play a game like this entirely for the story. I mean, don't get me wrong. A game like this could have great story, but I usually think like Metroidvania games are there for the plot. Are there for the gameplay. You're there to have something that you can jump in, play really fast, have fun with it, and then jump out. Or really just immerse yourself into it. So that's what I really find the true benefit of playing like a Metroidvania game.
At the very least, when the action ramps up, whether it be a big cutscene or the climax or like a mid-phase of a boss battle, the presentation and style more than makes up for those drawbacks, the story drawbacks for me. Like the way Sargon will shout or start glowing blue and powering up, and how the camera pans and speeds up as he flings into action. The background turns a solid color. The game uses all these brilliant anime-inspired tricks to really make things look and feel cool.
That looks like that would be a fun boss
exciting
fight.
As hell. As for the Metroidvania exploration elements, the base of it is what you'd expect, lots of different kinds of biomes you work through, some better than others, with their own dangers and enemy types and puzzles. Enemy types I really enjoy. Every enemy is dangerous. You have to pay attention, and the best ones force you to move around the environment and choose the proper attack direction and the right ability for the job. The platforming, though, I absolutely love, dude. It's like an old school Prince of Persia through and through. You're running, you're jumping,
that's good to hear.
Dashing,
I never played Prince of Persia, so it'd be interesting for me to
spinning blades. It's perfect and challenging.
Feel that,
and satisfying.
And if it does feel old school, that'd be fun.
It gets even better as it goes with more abilities and time manipulation, because this is still like a Prince of Persia game. Some of the trickier...
What I think is the best part about this game is that you can make yourself a badass. I think that's the coolest looking part about this game entirely, is that he, sliding under this giant monster, running up the wall, then dashing down from the ceiling. Like, that is sick.
Your platforming and environment puzzles.
It's exactly how you want to play with a dude that has
my
two
simple
swords.
Brain, and I really like that. I could see some people getting a little frustrated with some of this. It can be a lot to wrap your head around. Maybe it was just me, but like some of the time manipulation stuff in terms of planning things out, sequencing things out, while also trying to figure out a puzzle, and sometimes also avoid it.
Okay. I mean, that looked like that would have been a cool, kill animation. I guess that's what he was talking about with the counters. you can straight up just like counter people and get a cool kill animation out of it. But the camera, yeah, the camera got completely blocked.
Danger or enemies at the same time, it can be a lot. I really like
Which
it,
I
but
think
just
will be
like
okay.
heads
I don't
up,
think the
there are
camera
some
being in a
spots
bad
here
place at a
that
bad
had me
time
like,
all
ooh,
the
squeezing
time.
my controller.
Or
And you're
every once in a
encouraged to
while.
explore because a
It's
lot of
gonna be a
times the
bad
game
thing.
will like make you go somewhere, you unlock something, and then to get to the next part of the game, you have to backtrack to the beginning of the game and open up a new area.
Oof, oof, oof. I mean, if it's done well, I'm okay with that. I don't usually like games where you have to backtrack because I don't know. I just want to get through the game. I don't like re-looking through places I've already been through, but I will see. I mean, there's games that do it really well, and then there's games that just don't do it that well at all.
You know, that type of stuff. But on the side, you're encouraged to explore and revisit in that Metroidvania style to find new stuff, hidden secrets, and also there are some side quests. The side quests are mostly like someone telling you to go collect something, but usually they open up and then you don't really get to them until later on when the abilities and the map really opens up. But still,
Ooh.
they work. You're really just going
Okay.
around to try and find stuff and better your character, right? There are collectibles that
Yeah,
give
that
you a bit
makes
of reading.
sense.
And they weren't too
Encourage you
exciting,
to play
but
by doing
there are
that.
also different currencies and items of different rarity to spend at a shop and at a mythical weapons forge. So you're increasing your attack power, your capacities, you're buying different trinkets that will help you, stuff like that. And as you progress, you do
So it sounds like Ubisoft kept their open world game exactly how they like to keep it.
find and also
But the
buy
game's just
these
more
charms
fun
for
to
your
traverse
necklace that
through
can
rather than
stack
not.
to give you a bit like a poison resistance, an extra hit in your melee combo, faster special attack charging, and some of these can get really interesting. It's a little bit like a light character build because the capacity of your necklace only has so much, and some of these
Okay.
little medallions will take up more slots than
That's
others.
fine. The
So
character's
you have
already
some
built a
options,
certain way.
and some of them can also just help make the game
tweak
a
it.
little bit easier if you're struggling too. And when you're exploring,
I don't think
there's a
everything
map
needs, like, a
that's
massive
pretty easy to
character
read and it's
customization builder.
accessible quickly. You know, it's pretty instant, which is good. Standard stuff in a Metroidvania game, you need that. If you're used to the map in the more recent like Metroid Dread, there's that. But here, the game gives you an ability to at any time in a room hit a button, like it's like down on the D-pad, that takes a screenshot of the room in game and saves it to be highlighted on that part of the map. So
Oh, that's
if there's
cool.
like a hidden chest up high.
I like that a lot because because of the backtracking. Specifically because of the backtracking. Because there's so many times where, especially when I'm playing like Metroid, I'm like, wait, I wanted to go back to this room to find this thing. And yeah, on Metroid it has the map and it tells you the thing, but that's cool that you can just like highlight it. Hopefully it still has like, oh, you found a chest in this room. Come back to this room if you want to. And like in Metroid where it's like if you just got a new ability to traverse through things, it kind of tells you can do that now, but well,
That you can't reach yet, hit a button, and then the game instantly saves a little screenshot right onto your map that's easy to find later on, and like you can hover over it so you can like keep track of things. It's a really solid feature, and it sounds like it's not a big deal, but it's very
It's a big
cool
deal.
and useful.
It's-
and I
it's a
think
good thing.
The Metroidvania nerds are gonna really like how this is implemented. So really, if you can't tell, I have a lot of good things to say about this one. It's a
Yeah.
genre where there are definitely plenty of entries out there. There are a lot of modern Metroidvania games.
Yep.
And,
A lot of indie developers
I don't know
make
if this is
Metroidvania
the
games.
best one, but it somehow just feels simple and fresh. The story, again, really a downer for me personally. Not bad, just a bit forgettable in a lot of chunks. It has a lot of cool ideas,
that's annoying that that
and
guy
it's
can't get hurt
clearly
by the
excited about
bomb.
its lore, but doesn't quite land with all of it. And I think that's the big negative of the game, but that's just for me. You might enjoy it a little bit more. Sargon as a character is pretty appealing, so there's aspects of it, but yeah, the gameplay is the best thing about this whole
Okay.
thing. It's buttery smooth, fun, challenging.
what you
The action
that's what you
and
show up to do.
platforming is top notch, and I had fun. That's the bottom line.
Ooh.
I'd love to see this style of game, like this style of gameplay
Spikes.
here, this Prince of Persia combat, this platforming, this movement, continue moving forward. I'd love to see more Prince of Persia Lost Crown games after this. And that's a good feeling. And again, a pretty good way to start a gaming year. But of course, this is a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. So now I want to hear yours. I'd love to hear what you think about the Prince of Persia series, because a lot of people have a lot of love for those early games. Whether
they really
it's
do.
The original Jordan Mechner classic, of course, or Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, which is one of my favorite games of all time. But I know a lot of people
I never got to play because I never really owned a PlayStation.
With Warrior Within or the Two Thrones, stuff like that. Let's talk anything Prince of Persia down in the comments, because to be honest, the franchise has been through a lot of revisions, a lot of updates, a lot of different attempts, and I like this one. I think this is pretty interesting, so let's see where it goes. Let's talk about this stuff. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for being here. Hopefully this helped inform your purchase or entertain you for a minute, anything like that. If you get it, if you like this, clicking the like button does help us out. Thank
is this
you.
the
And if
very
you're new,
first level?
maybe consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single
this is
day.
The very first
but as
level.
always,
Jeez.
thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, good stuff. There it is. If you guys want to watch the video yourself, I'm going to put the link to the video down below.